Good afternoon and welcome. Today, we are collaborating with Queer Food Foundation to celebrate the fact that we are queer all year. It might be Pride Month, but we don't do it for a day. We do it all year round. So here we are, queer all year, queering the kitchen. We're very excited to be collaborating with Queer Food Foundation. My name is Dozier. I'm the Director of Women's Leadership Programs at James Beard. Please visit our website and check out all the wonderful, amazing programs and initiatives we run all year round. Also, my job today is simple, is to introduce the wonderful Vanessa Parish. Hi, Vanessa.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. It's great to see your smiling face. So Vanessa is a founding member of the Queer Food Foundation. Today's conversation, Queering the Kitchen, is how to navigate queer entrepreneurship and career paths. Vanessa, in a moment, I'm going to let you introduce your panelists since this is your webinar. I would just do some housekeeping, if you don't mind, very briefly. Is Anna there? Anna, can you? Thank you so much. So how this webinar works. The webinar is being recorded, so please be mindful that whatever you share will be shared on our virtual education library. So be comfortable with what you're sharing, please. We will also make the recording available to Queer Food Foundation for whatever channels you would like to have it on. We'll be fielding questions at the end as time allows. So if you have questions, if the conversation's hot and juicy and you want to be part of it, there's a Q&A box. Please put your questions into there rather than in this chat, because the panelists will be so busy lighting up your brains with their conversation, they won't have time to look at the chat. So be mindful of that, please. And if you're having any technical issues, please message us using the Q&A and we will do our best to troubleshoot that for you. So without further ado, I don't want to take up too much oxygen. Happy Pride, everybody. So excited for this conversation. Vanessa Parish, over to you, my darling. Please go ahead and introduce your panel and the conversation.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Hello, everyone. Happy afternoon, happy Monday, happy Pride. I hope everyone is still recovering from the last big Pride weekend, especially on a Monday. Thank you guys so much for joining Queer Food Foundation and James Beard Foundation for this really awesome panel series that we'll be doing bi-monthly. But today we're going to focus on three very special groups of businesses. All four of these people I love near and dear to myself. So I'm going to introduce everybody individually. So I've got little bios just to give a little shout out. So first off, we have Kareem Queeman, aka Mr. Bake Sweets. Started his career in the kitchen with his grandmother at 5 years old, from Harlem, killing it in the kitchens in Harlem, going back and forth between Monroe College, working through the International Culinary Center, worked at the famed bakeries, Make My Cake and Carrot Top Bakery, Sarah Beth's and Billy's Bakery, now located in DC with his very own cake and confectionery company, obviously very highlighting intersections of being Black, being male, being queer in many spaces. Also, you may have caught Kareem on television with Disney, BET, Fox, Universal, NBC, and Target. So thank you so much for coming. We also have my dear friend Therese Dozier, known from LUVSPUN. LUVSPUN floss is the best cotton candy in the country. I've had it 800 times. Therese is homegrown in Southern California, on a mission to unjunk one of the world's most nostalgic and beloved treats, creating artisanal candy floss. LUVSPUN is a unique creative flavor experience with over 200 flavors made from raw organic sugar, vegan, gluten-free. One of my favorite parts about Therese's message is that is a mom run by autism moms of color. Both of her children are on the autism spectrum. So this is a great opportunity to make this a family business with all the love that LUVSPUN also has. I mean, if you haven't seen Therese just an amazing collaboration with H&M. So definitely check her out as well. And then finally, representing New York in the VK, we've got Bite, the amazing cute little donuts that you're seeing all over the internet right now. Two cousins, we got B and Sam. They started working in the kitchen baking with their grandmother, and it got into adulthood. I know when I spoke to them about Bite, they're like, we really wanted something else to do with our lives, and there they are, and they are killing it. So they are based out of Brooklyn. They do beautiful boxes. They have treats available for delivery. They are also at Smorgasbord on Sundays as well. So check them out if you're in the area. Thank you guys all for coming today. I hope you guys are ready for some conversation. We're going to drop lots of gems. If you're an entrepreneur that is visiting with us today, please ask all your questions. These people have the answers. So we'll get started. Anything I missed, if you want to introduce yourselves, let us know how long you've been in the business. We can start with Kareem.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for that beautiful introduction. And ladies, it's so great to be just sitting on the side of you guys and all the amazing work you're doing in the community. I have been in the industry now. Okay, so are we technically saying like when I first started? Because like being Sam, I started with my grandmother at 10 years old. So, and I was selling cakes in high school, to be honest. Like I sold cakes to teachers and to my classmates. So I've been baking for, I would like to say over 15 years, but I graduated from culinary school in '09. So I don't know if y'all want to do 12 years to my 15 to 20 years.
Thank you for that. Well, how long have you been Mr. Bake Sweets?
I've been Mr. Bake Sweets for 8 years.
Okay, awesome. That's a long time. And Therese?
I have been the head mother fluffer of LUVSPUN for the last 3 years. We're going on 4 this year. So yeah, and before that, I was in the event space. I've had a billion lifetimes in careers. So here I am.
Yes, and I have actually a t-shirt that says Mother Fluffer on it. So if you want to grab those t-shirts, they definitely spike a conversation on the streets. Okay, and then for me and Sam.
Yeah, I mean, we've been baking forever. Like I remember bringing like boxes of cupcakes to my friends in high school for their birthdays, but we started Bite in 2019. So we're still pretty new, especially given the pandemic of it all. So we're still like a new business and we're like figuring it out and like keeping up the momentum and everything like that. But yeah, we've been baking forever. But like Therese, I feel like I've had a million different lifetimes of different careers and things like that have led here. Yeah.
Do you ever get that feeling when you're working, when people ask what you do and you're just like, do I give them the long version or the short version?
Oh.
Well, this past month of June has been 18 years in and of itself, so I don't really know what how that factors in.
Okay, so let's get down to the meat and the potatoes. What do you guys think? How do you get to where you are now in your business? Where do you think you started? And what are some steps that you've taken to get to your specific point of where you are? Open-ended question for anybody.
I'll go. I started with an idea, honestly. Like I said, I had been in a bunch of different careers. I started out formally trained as a scientist and transitioned into marketing and then wedding planning and all of these different things. And so when I closed my last business and I decided that the next time I opened a business, it's not going to be service-based, it's going to be product-based. I was just looking for that product. And so I didn't know what it was. It wasn't going to be something manufactured that I didn't create myself. I needed to be attached to it in a very loving way. And so, yeah, it just started with an idea that came to me on a fluke and wouldn't let me sleep for 4 years before I started the business. And so I held on to it, and my friends thought I was crazy when I would tell them about my cotton candy company. They're like, okay, girl, and yeah, and then I started it, and they were like, oh, that's what you meant. Oh, that. I'm like, yeah, like I'm not gonna do it half-assed. So, you know, it's just about just holding on to that, you know, that dream or that idea and keeping it pushing and just keep going after it.
Therese, it's funny. I feel like we actually kind of started the opposite way, where we had the product first. Like Bethany and I were both kind of in transitional periods, like looking for what we wanted the next step to be, and like knew that we wanted to be like entrepreneurial with it.
Yeah.
And then one day we just like made these mini donuts, and we had like 100 mini donuts and started giving them away to friends, and people wanted them for their offices and for their kids' schools and stuff. And it just kind of like, we had the product first, and then we took the leap of faith because we had each other and we felt like we could do it, and there was the demand for it.
Very cool.
That's beautiful. Mine is passion. So, yeah, passion and the love. So I fell in love with sweets. And then I was like, I want to make my own cake. And my family comes from the South, so they were big cooks. They didn't really bake a lot, and my mom didn't bake at all. You know, so I started with a box mix, and everything started with passion. And from there, I was blessed that my middle school happened to have home economics. So for 6th and 7th grade, for 2 years, I took home economic courses, which really solidified that this was the career that I wanted to take. And how I got into baking or like cake decorating, honestly, was because at the time I only knew of like 3 positions that bakers or pastry chefs had. So you could be a pastry chef, a bread baker, or a cake decorator. That's the only things that I saw in my little world. So I was like, oh, I don't want to be a pastry chef because they leave the restaurant too late. And I just knew I was going to be popping and have friends and wanted to hang out. Who wants to do that, right? And then I was like, oh, I don't want to be a bread baker because they got to be to work at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I already know I hate getting up to go to school. So why would I want to get up and do that? So I was like, oh, I'm going to be a cake artist. You know what? I think they have like every other Sunday off or every other weekend off. And they have like close to traditional hours. I can work, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 7 or something like that. That's how I got to where I'm at.
They're the rock stars, right?
Hours.
I love how you're like, I don't want to work too much. So let me find the best times to make myself work the easiest way possible.
True.
I love it. I love that you set your intentions at that standard. Yeah. So talking about queering the kitchen, what do you think that means to you? And how do you show those intersections at work?
Queering the Kitchen, to me, when I even saw it and was presented to this panel, I was like, it just basically mean for me showing up your authentic self, whatever that looks and feels like in your current life. Each of us, we grow, we become somebody new and things like that. So I think it's really just showing up your full authentic self. Yeah, and that's what I've done. You know what I mean? And what does that look like? Honestly, it was harder in the beginning. And I'm not gonna lie, I have some entitlements, right? I am a male, number one, right? But then I also look like this, and I do air quotes, this masculine, I present as this masculine male until you hear me talk, I'm very comfortable with you, then my mannerisms and everything else just starts to come out, and you're like, oh, he likes guys. I'm like, yeah, I do, So I think in the beginning, honestly, it wasn't really my queerness that was an issue. It was more so my Blackness. And because of my name, Karine Queen, when you see a resume with that name, you automatically think I'm Muslim or somebody of color just because of the name and the origin of where the name comes from. So that was more of a big thing. But what I've been doing most recently has been creating space in food media. And my previous, I've done a couple of slow competitions, as Vanessa said earlier, Food Network, Netflix, you name it. And then most recently, I was a featured judge on Food Network season 3 of Buddy vs. Dove. And I bring that up because I wanted to show my fullness, my Blackness, my queerness. And I wanted to show that on top of my talent, being a baker and a cake artist. And what was so important for me was because I watched Emeril Lagasse growing up. You know what I mean? When Food Network just started. And my mother and I used to be like, I'm gonna take you to that show one day, you know? And I was like, yay. And just imagine if there's another queer kid who's watching Food Network or watching Netflix and they see myself being my full self, that they too can say there is a space for me to be myself in this arena that I find right now in such of a glee or such of a star attraction to be for me right now. So that's what it means as, you know, being queer in the kitchen or just being queer in your workspace, that is anything that's revolving around the food industry.
I love that. Okay.
Kareem, we definitely lead with our queerness as well. And like we always say that we're like a family owned, queer owned business. And like we even like our banner is all pride colors. Like we have the gay donut, like we lead with our queerness. And even yesterday when we were at Smorgasburg, there was this like non-binary child who their eyes just like lit up when they saw our gay donut. And you don't really think that like a child or anybody will see themselves and themselves represented like within like a food product. But there's a lot of like people get really close to those, like especially sweets, like they love certain cookies, or they love their favorite donut, or their favorite anything, favorite cake, anything. And I think that if we can be like their queer donut, or like for them to like see themselves in us, I think that it makes a really big difference. And it's not really something I even thought about when we like embarked on like leading with this.
And we sort of realized that like donuts are already so gay and desserts are already just so gay. So why are we just making them gayer? We should just be celebrating that constantly. The gay donut has been really fun for us. It's been really exciting. I think that it's been a big pivotal moment for our business too.
Yeah.
And we've celebrated our queerness more than I think we ever have before.
Oh my gosh.
And we never thought that like a mini donut business would do that. And I think it's because we're like celebrated and we're trying to celebrate that part of ourselves through our product.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, Therese, you guys understand. I just want to piggyback and say, I definitely do. I understand you with that. Like I started out just, you know, creating food. Like I love to make people feel good through the food I make. And then next thing you know, you find that you wind up being gifted a purpose in your passion. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty when you have that on top of your brand or whatever you're doing and presenting food. You now say, I have a purpose now, and let me be more intentional about how I move with the type of product and how I service it, just myself. You start actually maturing in yourself, you know? So just wanted to piggyback on that because so much growth from that.
I agree and piggyback off of what both of you or all three of you have spoken. I show up as a Black woman first, always have. And as a queer Black woman in this space where, I started off really to spread love. Like that's what our brand represents. It's LUVSPUN, right? We're spending love. Like that's what we call our cotton candy love. And when we saw like the joy that it was bringing people, and just the happiness, like that's that moment or that part of everybody's life, whatever, place they come from, that intersection that everybody's really trying to get to is just happiness and joy and love, right? And so in spreading that, we found our place taking a really vocal stance. I don't think that, like I said, I'm a Black woman first and foremost, like that's what people see when they see me, but having this platform and having the opportunity to spread love. And so we've created this safe space for everyone, especially our fam, our LGBTQ fam. Like you can always come to us. We will always give you some, rainbow glitter bombs. We will always show you love. And in a community where I live a little north of Los Angeles, and it's very conservative. I mean, the most conservative place in in California. It's like it's Bakersfield, and it's like literally, yeah. Anyway, so for us to be, just living our truth and living our lives here is almost dangerous. And it's just, we've seen so much support from our community in ways that we never expected. And I think Queering the Kitchen is just building those relationships, and being as authentic as you can, being your authentic self to foster those relationships and fortify those relationships. And that way, it spreads beyond just the kitchen.
Therese, I never even thought about the fact that everything that we do, because I know that feeling so well, and I think that most bakers do, we do this because we love to see the people's face. We love to
Yes.
give them that experience and spread that love. That is where it all comes from, and it's all rooted in love. So
Yes.
Everything we do is queer because we're queer people, but it almost seemed like this was kind of the next thing to do, was just to continue to spread love in that way and create a community that way.
And if you think about it, our trade comes from the love that your grandmother shown you, and the love that your family members showed you to be able to give you this skill, right? My love comes from my grandmother as well, not actually making the cotton candy, though she was a candy maker. But the entrepreneurship portion is something that I learned from love, So yeah, it's just being able to spread that on and keep it going. We got so much to fight against, right?
Jesus.
I think that's a great point to talk about, so much to fight against, because multiple intersections, as we all know, can create more conflict just personally, but also business-wise. There's decisions that have to be made and obstacles that you get faced to. So was anyone given any warning signs before they got this career goal? Do you have any cautionary tales of things that have gone wrong while you've been on this journey of really being out and an entrepreneur?
I wouldn't recommend a global pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good and a bad thing though, because we had started our business and we realized that in order to scale bigger, we had to take a step back and to see how we could survive something like that and still be able to get donuts to people. So, sometimes you want to just go, rush. But when you take it as it comes, you realize that it kind of all falls into place. And that's sort of what happened with us during that. But yeah, second that.
Not great.
Right before.
Repeat the question again, Vanessa. I'm sorry.
Any obstacles that you face, cautionary tales you have, any warnings you were given before starting?
I wish I had some warnings before I started. I wish I had a mentor that was, Black, of color, and who was queer or just authentically themselves. Honestly, that would have been great. It was kind of hard to find mentorships. I will say that right now, I think we're in a better space than what I was navigating the food industry on my own. Get a mentor, learn self-love, because sometimes when you learn your worth, which I didn't really know fully of my worth, you know how much you want to charge, how you show up, you know what I mean? Charging, what I say is, your hourly rate, how people talk to you, things like that. They talk to you condescendingly, like you don't know anything, like you're lazy, you know what I mean? Like you're looking for a handout. And also just make sure you're really good at your craft, whatever it is that you're presenting in front of the table, because people will try you every chance they get. Let me tell you something. I have been in networking spaces when I didn't feel too confident about my baking, and I knew my baking was good, right? But I still didn't feel all the way 100% about it, even though I've been doing this for years. And people will tell you oh, go back to the drawing board, or go do, go do this or go do that, or maybe you should think about that and come back and do this. And I'm, you walk away from the meeting did I just get smacked in the face without being physically smacked in the face? Oh shoot, you know what I mean? Like, and not realizing it then, but then realizing it like as I'm driving off or walking off, you know. So I definitely would say one of the things that now that I wish I had a little bit when I was younger was a little bit more self-worth, like just knowing your worth, having some self-esteem, being able to truly in your workspace talk about how you feel. Some of us, especially queers, were known to be sassy and to be very sarcastic. So, you know, well, I don't know, maybe it's just the brown and black queers because, honey, we are sassy and sharp tone, but it's all in love, though. You
Are you
know,
a Scorpio?
huh?
Are you a Scorpio?
On a cusp.
Okay, there we go.
How'd you call that?
So, anyway, I don't know what that, but anyway, like I said, I'm just gonna wrap it up and say self-worth and mentorship. I wish I would have had a little stronger hold on when I started the industry, when I started navigating in the industry.
The imposter syndrome's real.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know that I feel like I'm navigating this thing daily. Like honestly, I'm sure somebody has done this, but maybe not in the way that I'm trying to do it. And so I feel like mentors definitely would have been very beneficial. I feel like, yes, not having a pandemic, but I see that, you know, for my experience and my journey as an entrepreneur in this space, the pandemic is really like kind of been very beneficial for us. And I say this in a way where it kind of, it had to put me on my toes, right? It kept me on my toes. We were event-based at first. So doing pop-ups like Smorgasburg and, you know, those kind of events. And then what ended up happening was when all the events shut down, we had to figure out what to do. And so that's when our packaged good was born. And so I think the advice that I have is to be as nimble as possible, and to use all events, even good ones and setbacks and all of those things as learning opportunities, because there's always a lesson in it. And sometimes the blessing is the lesson, right? So, or vice versa, whatever, however that sassy black phrase goes, right? But yeah, I think if I could sit and think on it for a long time, I probably have like, oh yeah, I needed this, and oh yeah, I needed that in the start. But I feel like things grow however they're supposed to. And so it's really hard to say, oh, I should have had this in the beginning, you know, because I feel like if I had, I guess, a proper path eked out, I wouldn't be where I am. So
yeah, there's no path to anything that we're doing.
Yeah.
We're all queer. Like you have a cotton candy business. We have a mini donut business. Like this, nobody's doing this shit. They're like,
right. Food and throwing it out and seeing who catches it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no rules.
I think that's a great point. Not to like insert myself, but just because I'm in the entrepreneurship with you guys, but I had to learn that it's okay to pivot because some things just don't work.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with like letting it go and just pivoting and doing something different. I think that was the biggest lesson for my cautionary tales. Sometimes I would keep pushing because I wanted it to work so bad. It just wasn't working. And being afraid of being seen as like not a failure or whatever. But sometimes it just doesn't work. And you just gotta like, okay, what else are we gonna do? What else? There's so many ideas, like, you know, just pick one, you know, and keep going. So as a queer entrepreneur, where do you guys find your community? Do you have a community that supports your business? Where do they find you? This is a community question about, have they accepted you as far as in totality? Are there any challenges with the community?
Who's gonna go?
So we've grown our community a lot because of the gay donut, and people see it and get very excited and they like immediately identify with it. However, there have been a couple of moments that each of us have had where somebody will walk up and be like, why's it gotta be gay?
Why'd you call it that?
And so like we have to have like those weird conversations where like, we're talking about a donut, right?
Yeah, so we definitely have to push through those moments and
Yeah.
remind ourselves like why we're there and like who we're there for, even if it's not for everybody.
But I think like being authentic and like leading with who we are and like knowing who we are and like being confident in that has just kind of like grown the community authentically. But yeah, there's always those like weird moments where you're like, I don't know how to answer that.
we currently reside in like Bed-Stuy now, so we just actively are always trying to get to know the businesses in the area because we just feel like it starts here, like where the home and the heart is, and kind of spreads out. So like we've just been trying our best to kind of get to know everybody, and there's like anytime there's a new queer bar that opens up, we try to introduce ourselves and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
do what we can to stay present and meet as many people as possible. But it's challenging, even though there's a lot of gay people in New York.
I want to say just really quickly that I think out of the three of the panelists, you are the only donut I haven't had. Because I've had Kareem's amazing cake, I've had Therese's cotton candy, I've not had a donut.
Vanessa, honestly, you didn't.
I need a gay donut. So I mean, what's good?
When you're in New York, and then also we do literally last week we got our shipment boxes, so we'll be shipping.
Okay.
So there's some donuts for
Right
everybody
now,
around
so
the horizon.
we'll have to convene that because I need a donut. I haven't been able to take a sample, so I can't vouch. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, hilarious.
How I felt my sense of community. So honestly, I started finding, and I got to go back to then come to the business. I found my sense of community, or understood my sense of what the importance of a sense of community at a younger age, because I needed that just to navigate what it meant to be a Black queer man in New York City, in the United States. You know what I mean? So I'm so blessed that I was able to find that at a young age, and from that sense of family that I was able to foster, because I'm still friends with some of those people that I met at 16, 17. I was able to then take that same ideology and same plan and implement it to my business once I became a little bit more comfortable with, and be more authentic, become a little bit more comfortable with my Blackness and my queerness existing at the same time, and understanding that there is power in my story. And once I did that, then I was able to then say, you know what, I'm in the DC area, everything is so posh and so conservative and so on the books. I was like, I'm going to get involved in local chambers so I can meet other queer businesses. And by the grace of God, I was able to meet one gentleman who then brought me in. I did desserts from them for free. And then next thing you know, I'm doing, they're paying me to do other events. I become a member. And from there, I then become a member and a certified LGBTQ plus business through the NGLCC. And I'll be able to use that. And that shows every queer person who's a part of that or who isn't, they know it's like, okay, this is an authentic LGBTQ plus queer business. Let's support them. We know that. We obviously know he's Black because we see his face all over with the product. You know what I mean? So we know he's minority on that aspect. So that was the way that I found sense of community, was showing up to a lot of different networking events. Like my girlfriends, we show up to, if I see a restaurant, I'm in a restaurant and I know, like, say for instance, they don't have desserts because we do wholesale. I would offer myself, introduce my business, introduce myself, try their food, and just try to build a partnership with them and see what's up. You know what I mean? Because honestly, though the ownership is queer, the product is made for everybody. You know what I mean? And it's to make you feel good. And that's what I try to convey to people at the end of the day. Yes, I am Black. Yes, I am queer, but the product is for everybody. Do you like it? Thank you. That's what I care about.
I love that. For me, I think that my community found me. Again, geographically, I live in a very challenging space. Like when I say conservative, they were during the pandemic, having all out I wanted to say Klan rallies, but Trump rallies on the corner. So it was just like with full tactical gear in front of the Taco Bell, the irony. So it was just like the craziest, it's the craziest space. And, I offer a traditionally, I guess, child-oriented treat. So like, I had to make sure that I marketed in a different way to share that we aren't for the kids, because we didn't want anybody coming to us being like, well, you're trying to push the agenda. No, that's not us. Like, just like Kareem was saying, like, we make this for everybody. It's for love. And so, I feel like we met at this place with our community that we were about, again, about love and making sure that everybody was included. So with that, our community found us and like are lifting us up as we speak. So, and just making sure that we're part of anything in our community that is LGBT organized, run, and just like you said, introducing ourselves, making sure that who we are as a family is known. And I think for the naysayers here in our local community, it's like, oh, well, they're moms. So, like we get the pass because we're moms, but we still gay as I don't know what. So, I mean, we let them rectify themselves with that. But finding our folks, they've just embraced us and we're so grateful for that.
I think this is a great point that you put, Therese, though, that a lot of people, when they hear queer, don't exactly think family friendly. And that's not an antonym, right? Like, we are families, like we have, queer can also be family friendly. Like just anything, there's a lot of things that aren't family friendly, but doesn't mean cotton candy doesn't have to be. I just realized that all of you guys make desserts, so I love that for us.
We're the outliers because we're queer owned, but like imagine all of the like straight owned companies, which are just like all of them presumably, and then it's like so many of them aren't family friendly. So it's like, what are we talking about, you guys?
Hooters, like. So business wise, just where did you guys have any financial struggles? Were there any things that you learned while balancing a business, taxes, filing things, just having funds, that you realized that like, wow, like I'm a legit business now?
I mean, you said it. Go ahead. That you're a legit business. Because when you gotta pay city, state, and all of that, baby, and they don't care pandemic or not, baby, because I still was paying the pandemic, okay? You got a little cut or something, but baby, please, that tells you every 3, 4, however often you file, that reminds you that you are a business, right? Or you're cultivating and creating a sustainable brand. But when people lie to you and steal, because they do a bunch of it, like there's some great things about being a business owner. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and shun being a business owner down, right? Like there's some amazing opportunities, and not just creating your own schedule, right? You actually are taking a thought, a dream, and you are creating it and putting it into the world to see that as a gift that was given to you, and you are giving it to other people. That is beauty in that. And I want people to understand that. That's truly what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to take your gifts and give it to the world. But there's been some challenging times. I mean, it's like I said, when you sign on to things with people in the beginning, when you don't really know about like contracts, if you didn't know that before, if that was in your previous job description in your 9 to 5s or, your day-to-day ends, you got to learn about what it means for contracting. You put everybody in a contract. You're a graphic designer. I don't care if you met them off of a site. I don't care if you met them off of social media. You draw up something that everybody's legally bonded to. And if you don't have a lawyer, you can something that just says, this is what you're supposed to do by this particular time. The ask, the want, and the due date. And just make sure that's being done. If not, you're able to then do what you need to do to get your money back, especially if you put a lot of money into it. And we all really know that one of the biggest things with small business owners, and especially minority-owned small business owners, is the lack of resources as well as capital. You know, capital is across the board, but we know damn for sure a lot of times it's lack of resources for specific intersections when it comes to business owners. So don't limit yourself because you don't see something in your neighborhood. Don't be afraid to step out and go to another neighborhood. That's what I did. You know what I mean? I was able to say, I'm knocking on doors because you have this here. You want to say no to me, I'm going to keep knocking on the door. I don't care.
Yeah, we were lucky. Obviously the pandemic was a huge hit for us because we were mostly like catering based beforehand. And during the shutdown, we kind of pivoted to do our like shipment and like develop our boxes and our website and everything like that. And we were lucky enough to have a Kickstarter that worked, that was funded at the end of last year. And I think that, I mean, we wouldn't be here today without it. And a lot of that was because of the community that we had built and that we had kept in touch with, and they believed in us and they didn't want to see us stop just because this thing happened. So yeah, but in terms of like, we're constantly learning and constantly probably not doing it correctly in terms of like the, like, figuring out paperwork and taxes and like who we can trust and bringing on new people because we're expanding. So it's like we're getting those people, our team, in order and like drawing up contracts and figuring out what we need. So yeah, it's an everyday process.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into running a business.
So
and
much.
Like every little thing that you do, you feel more like, oh, okay, yeah, we are a business. You're reminded again,
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah,
and
we're doing this.
It's not just the donuts, like it's so many other things. And then like even this month, this like Pride Month and how busy we were, I think that like there was a moment last week where we were like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do this. Like, so it's like constantly surprising ourselves, I guess.
Yeah.
And keep pushing and having people believe in you, I guess.
Yeah, I'm right there with everybody. It's, you know, you start to learn like the hard way, all of the little nuances and the paperwork and all of that stuff. I think the challenge of procurement and supply chain during the pandemic had been really challenging. But I think like, I don't think I would trade this for anything else at the end of the day. It is something that fuels me. And I think the why that we all do, the reason that we all do this makes all those hard bumps like absolutely worth it. So I'm riffing because my son came and distracted me and I forgot the question, but because he's loud. But it was about the hardships, right? Of running a business. You're on mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Vanessa.
Yeah, and the financial aspects of running the business.
Yeah. Again, the capital was a challenge for us. We didn't know we needed so much money to do this. It was one of the things, like pre-pandemic, it paid for itself, but then having to really put in our savings and then raise money during the pandemic and still seeking capital to be able to expand into like retailers and spaces that we're anticipating, you know, to grow. All that money is needed up front. And I have like a bi-weekly call with a really close friend of mine, and I'm grateful for him in this space to kind of tell me like, it's okay. You're not the only one, you know, nobody has any money. And this is all like smoke and mirrors. Like, it really is, but like, don't look behind the curtain, you know, the wizard's back there. It's all pulling it together and just trying to make the most of it. So like, I don't know. I think I have this, I have to tell myself daily, like I'm looking at my van DMV registration bill, and I'm thinking about all the taxes that are due this month and all the things. And I'm just like, well, what are we even doing this for? Just to pay for the bills? But it's the love, it's the why, it's, you know, it's all of those things that help us, you know, be present and make an impact here, you know? So yeah, it's all hard.
Therese, to piggyback off of that, I feel like most of us probably were feeling, or still are feeling, very downtrodden after Friday. And I had this moment, I was like, we were like making all these mini donuts, and I was like, for what? Like, why are we doing this? Like, these mini donuts, nothing matters, our government hates us, blah, blah, blah. And then we had last weekend, and it was Pride weekend, and we served our stupid gay donuts to a bunch of queers in New York City, and it felt really good. And that little non-binary kid whose face lit up, like, that's why we're doing it. And it's not because it's, you know, it's easy right now to like just feel like you shouldn't be doing anything, like nothing matters, like nobody has money, there's a freaking curtain somewhere, then we're all puppets. But I think when it comes down to it, the why is just like spreading this love and spreading this queerness the best that we can every day.
Yeah.
Sure.
And before we change the question, I do want to just give out something. One thing I did before going into my business, I worked full time, and because I knew that lack of resources and capital were going to be given to, or weren't going to be given to me easily, I decided that I started my own. I put the capital into my own business with my full-time business.
Yes.
So I worked full-time and I worked part-time. I was a general manager of a bakery, and I worked in a catering company part-time, and I was still making cake. So I used some of the money from the catering company, because I made really good money on the catering company, and let that fuel the business. That just went into the business account, or that went into the supplies that I bought for the business. So that's all those cake pans, all of the spatulas, all of the fondant, all of that stuff that adds up. And then any money I made from the business, it would just stay in its account. So I separated. So anybody needs some kind of navigation, or I would say, if you have a full-time job, use that to start the capital towards your business. If you have family members who could be angel investors in there, which means they have no ties into your business and no say so, but they want to give you some finances to help you launch your idea and create a business. Yes, you take that $1,520, please, with no strings attached. And then you use that to continue to put something away, and you separate the two from your personal so that you can see money. You can actually physically say, all right, this is the money that I have in my business account, even if it's a regular checking account at the moment.
I think what you guys are all saying is so valid, because unlike Kareem, I didn't realize that I was gonna have to work 16 hours, like 10 hours on the computer and then 10 more hours in the kitchen to run a business. And then you have to pay yourself, right? And then everyone else. So I think I don't think I even actually sat down as an entrepreneur to look at, was I actually getting paid, until way longer, a little too late, honestly. Everything else was getting paid for, but my time. So like creating that plan of add a little more, because you have to pay yourself. Also, like not being afraid of like, I am a business. You cannot ask me for a coupon code. I don't have one. I don't, like I'm not in a space where we can donate, $7,000 worth of product. Call Oreo, so those type of things for sure, when we're talking about entrepreneurship and having those no's and I have to's, you cannot budge from them because the margins can get so thin. What are the top 3 things you guys think a budding entrepreneur should be clear on knowing before they take the leap that we all have taken?
I have one. What they're I have 3. Okay, I have the 3. What their absolute I'm not gonna do this is, like what their absolute no is. Because just what you were saying, you have all these great opportunities thrown at you, especially when you're budding, right? Like when you're just getting started and people want to sell you exposure like it's going to pay the bills, and it don't. So you have to be very thoughtful and calculated about that. Like, is this going to give you a networking opportunity? Is this going to put you in front of the audience that you need to be put in front of? Because then that's worth it, right? But if it's just like this random exposure, no, right? The second one is your COGS. Look, COGS, your cost of goods sold. And for me, one of the things that I'm still learning is like integrating all of the costs. Like as we're trying to expand into retail spaces, it's not just how much it costs for me to produce my product. It is the marketing costs, the overhead costs. It's all of these, you know, other factors that have to go into the cost of our goods. So yeah, sugar don't cost that much, but you're getting all of this in that tub of cotton candy. And I think lastly is to always trust your gut. I know this is not like a technical thing, but if it don't feel right, you know, So if it doesn't feel right, walk away. Even if it sounds real good and like it's good, it's gonna be the thing that blows you up, walk away.
It stinks, it stinks.
Yeah.
Listen, say it again, but one time for those in the back.
Stinks, it stinks, kids.
Yes.
There were definitely some things touched on that I agree with for sure. But to add one other thing to the mix, I think it would be to like know exactly what your product is and to like know your competition and like know that it's what people need and what people want.
And know where it exists in the space, like where you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I think that there's a lot of businesses out there. There's a lot of people trying to do the same thing. There's, you know, so it's like really knowing
yourself, your brand, what you have.
And taking the time to develop that before, you know, putting it out there for everybody else.
Unique selling propositions, right?
I mean, y'all said some amazing things. I'm just gonna add two things that came up right now. I'm trying to write them down. Like we all have learned through COVID is don't be afraid to pivot, change things up. Don't be so gun-ho to stay in one particular lane. Like we said, if something isn't working, you know, hey, you gotta change it, you gotta flip it, you gotta bring it to the audience a different way. Or maybe you have to scrap that idea and bring them something new, fresh, you know? So just don't be afraid, don't be so stuck in that space. And the pandemic taught us that. Second thing that came to mind was support system. You know, it's hard. I'm gonna tell you right now, it is not easy. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be fun some days, but it ain't gonna be fun some days. And you're gonna need support, you know, the right energy and the right people around where you need to climb because you gotta do a 16-hour day, or you just bust out, you know, to a 14-day work week. Like you literally just been working nonstop for 2 weeks and you don't even know when you're going to be taking off. You know, you're going to have those months, you're going to have that time. So just have a great support system, somebody that might even come in and lend you a hand. You know, I'll do a delivery, go take a nap, like, or I'll drive the car, you sleep. You know, we got an hour out if you got to do a big delivery or something like that. So just don't be afraid to let a little person in, let somebody in to help you out.
Yeah. I love that because everyone knows if you come to my house and I'm cooking, you're gonna get put to work. Oh, yeah. You're gonna leave something out. You're gonna package up something. You're gonna.
All of our friends have helped with the donuts.
If you're coming to hang out with me, you will get fed, but you will also be getting to work. So I think that's a great point of like just using your community in multiple ways than just. You know, income and things like that, but output as well. I have two questions before we get to the Q&A. So if you have any questions that you want our awesome panelists to answer, please put them in the chat now so we can ask them. So one of my other questions is speaking of channels, what channels did you guys use to reach out to the community? Was it just socials? Did you go door to door? You know, how did you guys really let people know that you're here?
You know, we do live in a world of social media, so that's probably top number one. But I'm a face-to-face. I like to say beat to beat, be on the streets is really what it means. And I'm a face-to-face person. So networking is always number one. I used to love, like I told you my scheduling, my thought process. So you knew I was out in the streets as a young kid. So I navigated that. And in that, I told my story. You know, I told people what I did. I bake. I bake for a living. I make these awesome cakes. Oh, I love to make your cake. You know what I mean? I used to bring mini cupcakes to all of the functions, brownies. I used to shove experimental recipes in all of the neighbors' face. You know, the community truly poured into me as a young baker. So I definitely would say if you have that introvert or extrovert feeling attitude, go out there and meet people face to face. Meet them where they're at and bring your product and tell your story. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, we were almost completely social media based, and then like just having so many events and having the opportunity to network has been huge, just like Kareem. And then kind of, I would say, just getting over the imposter syndrome and making the introductions to the people that you want to know. Like we reached out to Queer Food Foundation last year and just was like, hey, we're gay, want to be friends? And like, look at where we are now. So it's just like literally just knowing that what you have is good and you should be out there in those spaces and just like introducing yourself and putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can advocate better for your product than yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're there with your product face to face, they're going to see so much more than being, you know, behind a screen, behind a phone.
Yeah.
And I think that we all of us here on this panel, I can tell we all have like really fun, exciting personalities. So like that's what people are like, they're just as excited about that.
Yeah, they want to support it.
Agree.
I'm very similar to you all. Started social media. I mean, I think really before I settled into the business, I imagined that this company would be a marketing company that sells a product. And so that's how we started off, is really, you know, with the vibe, you know, with the vibe of LUVSPUN. And as it's grown, reaching the community, it's just really been organic in telling our story and just being real about like, look, these dishes are dirty and these kids are getting on my nerves. And, you know, we find our people wherever. Oh, babe is mad at me because of whatever, you know, just being really authentic. I think people, you know, this is why we all watch YouTube, why we all watch all of this stuff on every platform, is just because we want to know more about people. And I think that is how we ended up reaching out into the community and reaching places that we never thought we would get, is just being our authentic self. So like you were saying, about, you know, just not having that imposter syndrome, knowing that you can always improve and just going for it and introducing yourself to people who you're like, well, the only thing they can tell you is no if you're asking for a collaboration or a partnership. So yeah, I mean, that's how we just kind of spread the word about us and kept it pushing.
Yeah. I just want to add on too, because a lot of times we do this, and I did this for a very long time, it's operated in a place of fear. Fear of rejection, like she said, the last thing you can do is tell you no. Fear of, oh, I don't have what it takes. And you actually do have what it takes. Look at what you've created. Look how far you've come as a human being on this earth. You know, when everything else was telling you, no, you can't be, you shouldn't be, you won't be. And you went against all those odds and you triumphed that. So just remember, every little win that got you to the person you are today, remember that when you are looking at like a next step, like should I take this next step, and you're trying to remove that layer of fear. You know what I mean? Nothing grows from fear, just so you know, nothing. So
Karine, that just like reminds me of the queer experience, and you know, like it's not just running a business. Like, you know, we've all existed to get over this fear of like having people tell us that we're not supposed to be who we are. So it's really just being authentic and knowing
yeah
that we deserve to be there.
Exactly. Here's my chair. I'm pulling it up to the table is what I like to tell people. I'm not sitting at a new table. I'm pulling my chair up to the table because I deserve it to sit at the table.
I think that's a good point for you guys. It's just kind of like Kareem, like just putting yourself out there, and even like you said, you are your product as well as what you're serving. People want to buy you first, and then they try your product. So you have to get people excited about you. I have my 30-second elevator pitch. I've got my business cards. 9 times out of 10, I have cookies in my purse ready to give to you. I am notorious for having food in my car, something nearby to give to you in the moment. Oh, you like me? You want to try my food? Here, I got it right here. Put it in your mouth. So I think that's a great point of like, get people excited about you, be authentic as possible in your spaces. Every opportunity of engagement is an opportunity for a sale. To wrap up this awesome conversation, with QFF, we talk about our phrase queer all year. We are going to be doing these conversations bi-monthly with different topics and different folks. So for you guys in this specific group of entrepreneurship, what ways do you want to challenge the food world to be queer all year?
I mean, I said it on Fox 5, and I'm probably going to piggyback when y'all talk, because y'all be putting other thoughts in my head. But I did this when I did a little segment on Fox 4, because they was like, how can businesses, participate in, queer, or Pride Month? I said that my queerness is 365 days a year. My Blackness is 365 days a year. It is not 1 month or 2 months out of the year. So please, and my brand is a food business. Don't you like dessert? You can support me every month, every week, every time you have an event and you need desserts, holler at me. I should be the person you're reaching out, especially if you're looking to support DC-based businesses, So I think that's what it is. It's about taking the lens off and looking at businesses like, oh, the owners, because I get all that. The owners, especially if the owners are only queer. If I'm selling sneakers, I'm selling sneakers. Sneakers, everyone needs a good pair of comfortable sneakers. You know what I mean? So I'm just queer. I just happen to be queer, but my business is servicing everybody. And yes, maybe the business is attached to giving back to, a particular organization or something like that. But if it's something like my girls selling cotton candy, my girls are selling donuts, I'm selling cake, that's all year long. You know what I mean? That doesn't have a gender to it. It just tastes good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having businesses and companies ask themselves, why can't I serve this particular product all year? And like, why am I only doing it right now? Because just for one example, one of the businesses at Smorgasburg is like a grilled cheese company, and they have this rainbow grilled cheese, which is really cool. We're all colored. And I was just like, so I think maybe asking yourself like, oh, well, why can't this always be on the menu? Why can't rainbows be all year? Like, why does it have to just be now? And I think that can, when someone comes up to your location to buy something, they're going to feel seen and heard no matter what time of year.
Yeah. And I think it's like also remembering like the true meaning of pride, where like we do, like, obviously we offer our gay donut all year round, but like we also always give 10% of the proceeds back to organizations, specifically ones that like help Black and brown queers. Like, so it's like remembering like the meaning of it and like what it actually is. And it's not just a product, it's not just a month, it's not like rainbow capitalism. Like we need to be like leading with our queerness, but also like giving back with it and like connecting to the things that it's actually about.
I think for other companies, their intention has to be first and foremost. One of the platforms that I belong to is Buy from a Black Woman. And you guys are open to follow them. They're amazing. But Buy from a Black Woman asks you every week, did you buy from a Black woman this week? And I think for other companies or business to business or even consumers, like, did you buy from the groups that are oppressed? Did you? And that is an easy way, I think, for everybody to integrate supporting us as queer entrepreneurs into their lifestyle. Like, support us. Don't just say, oh, you're gonna go to the parade and dance with us. No. Give us that green dollar. That's what's really important. So just making sure that you're intentionally spending your dollars is super important, and something that I feel like we should scream this from the mountaintops, as queer-owned businesses.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have a final Q&A question. Everyone wants to know, what are the actionable steps that queer first-time entrepreneurs can do? When you have that idea, you know what you want to sell, what are the first steps to get started?
Give your product to as many people as possible. Because I think that I had a full-time job at the time, and it's like, the more people that can taste it and give you the feedback, and you can kind of get a feel for what's working and what's not, the better, like listen to your customers and try. Yeah, and I would say just reach out to people who you see in the community, who you want to know and who you think might have the capacity to have a coffee or have a Zoom chat or something, and just talk to people in the community and learn as much as you can, because there's so much to learn.
Yeah, definitely talk about your business to everyone. Making sure that you're, if you do have an idea for a business, that you're protecting your IP, but definitely spreading the word across whatever platforms you're strongest at, having friends to do that as well. Reaching out to your network. I think one of the things that people always tell me, your network is your net worth. So just knowing that, if you, even from a small town, don't know a whole lot of people, you just spread the word through the people who love you the most and support you. And I think you'll thrive that way.
They said, the young lady said some beautiful things. I would just add on, just say, I think Vanessa said it earlier, and how I started, and we all said it, like literally think of Little Red Riding Hood going to her grandmother's house with her basket. That's what you need to be doing. Skipping away, throwing treats at doors, like literally, if you have, a product it's a product that's tangible, get it in people's hands, talk about it. We're doing all these reels and things on social media. That's a great time to sit in front of the camera and talk about it. If you don't like sitting in front of the camera, have it where you're creating the product and it's just a voiceover of you explaining what the product is. There's other ways to get the messaging out. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing that someone told me a few years ago was that, and we all talked about it, but I'm gonna say it to you very directly. Some people will identify and connect with you over your story than they will your product. If there's people who are diabetic and we don't have anything that services them on this line, the three of us right here, they won't buy from any of us, right? But if they connect with each one of our individual stories, what they will do is they'll become champions for you, and it will spread your story for you, and they will support you by buying products for you, like to other people who can enjoy the product. You know what I mean? There will be advocates in their businesses and their offices saying, no, support this young person. I had somebody tell me the other day, I want to buy from you because I love your story. She literally, and when I told you it filled my heart up. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to give it to her for free because she just said something that just made me feel good in the midst of what we had just, information we just received on Friday. And that was a Friday call, So I was like, thank you so much. You just never know how just telling your story will really put a light in somebody's eye. Like we just saw the young non-binary person look at the donut. She could have been gluten-free, and that donut wasn't gluten-free. But when she saw them queer colors, she just knew that this is something she recognized, or they recognized, and that they knew that they were going to say, you know what, whatever the case may be, I'm going to support them and follow what they got going on. And now I'm going to be an advocate for that.
Whew. I just feel like we all just had such amazing moments. We all just I feel like we're all in separate spaces of the States right now, but we all are coming together for a very commonality in food, queerness, and love, So thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk about your journeys, talk about your food. I'm still waiting on my donuts, Mike, but that's okay. I've had, but yes, please check out Kareem, Mr. Bake Sweets. Please check out Bite Donuts in Brooklyn. Please check out LUVSPUN. I think all of you guys sell and ship. So check out their websites as well. We are going to be hosting these amazing panels bi-monthly for the rest of the year, queer all year, and each panel will have different queer food folks talking about their experiences, having more conversations. So look out for those announcements. Please sign up, reach out to us at QFF. We're here to support you guys as a community funded organization. All of these people that you guys see here are directly community members that we work with at QFF as well. And I love all of you guys. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the James Beard Foundation, to Zoe and Anna, sorry. But thank you so much for coming and checking out the panel, Queering the Kitchen, and we'll see you guys in the next panel series.
Thank you so much.